Monday, and I'm glad you all made it today. I had like a million people asking me if we had school or not. It's next Monday that we have off. But there's a bunch of, I don't know where everybody got the idea that today was the Monday that we had off, but. Yeah, but you have to pay attention to the days. Yeah, exactly. So it's like everyone was like all messaging me over the weekend. It's like, how come we don't have school? It's like, you do have school. Show up, you're going to be marked and verified. So, anyway, for your warm up today, it actually has to do with kind of the subject that we're going to be discussing this week. We're taking a little different, like, kind of route this week. Instead of doing like traditional stories, we're going to be reading mythology a little bit. Now, we're not going to be reading Greek mythology. I know a lot of people, when they think mythology, that's kind of what they go to. But believe it or not, there's different mythologies than a bunch of dead white dudes from 2,000 years ago. So we're going to explore other people, so because, there's an entire world outside of Greece. So lots of different mythologies. So we're going to be looking at different ones this week. So we're going to mostly focus on what's called creation myths. So it's basically like how the world was created according to different people. It's kind of fun. We're not going to read everyone. That was terrible. Yeah, get it. I'm going to slip on it and die if you don't get it. Not that you wouldn't want that, but no, but for the creation myths, we're not going to read. There's like, if you looked on this week's module and you looked at the creation myths, there's like 16 stories, like 20 stories. You're not going to read every single one of them. You're only going to pick one, and you're like going to like hear about the rest from everyone else, basically. So, but what do you know about mythology? Even if it is only Greek mythology, because again, that's typically what gets taught to you guys like in 7th, 8th grade. So. Actually, when I was at Fresno State, I actually studied a lot of Indian mythology. When I say Indian, I mean, India, not Native American, just so we're clear about that. Although we do have Native American myths that we're going to read about this week, and Indian. Oh, and just make sure that you've created a new Google Doc too, because you should have turned in last week's. For the one you turn in on the 22nd, there's only going to be 7 warm-ups because next Monday, again, we have off. So, what do we have off? Well, you guys have it off. I have to be here still. So it's basically, it's an in-service day. So all the teachers throughout the district were doing like trainings and stuff. So the whole reason why we started on a Wednesday, we normally used to start on Thursdays, first day of school, was because of this day. I think that part of it is that they were like saying, because normally we have like trainings at the beginning of the school year, and we basically just like got rid of one of our training days. So they decided to put one further in the school year, but also to give you guys a break because October, from Veterans Day till it's from, I'm trying to think of it. It was Memorial Day, is the first holiday we have, to Veterans Day. There's like a big gap of no break. So I think that they're also trying to get students like, here's a break in the middle, don't go crazy kind of thing. So. At least that's how I interpreted it.
I'm gonna say it's just the time for you guys to learn.
Basically. I mean, honestly, what we're doing this year, it's super exciting stuff. We're doing what's called accreditation, which means all the schools have to be accredited, which means like we have to be following a certain sort of rules. If we don't get accredited, which basically means your school is allowed to give diplomas, your school is allowed to teach kids. Because if they're not, then they have to have like a bunch of people interfere and make sure it's like, you guys aren't teaching right, you guys need to change what you're doing. So that's what we're doing. So like I said, super not fun stuff that we're gonna be doing, but it's all good. It's all good. Okay. So we should be pretty much done with that. I haven't seen an email yet about whatchamacallit, Apache Notes yet, so we'll see. But until then, I sent you guys this remind. Not everyone did it. It is not like optional, it is mandatory. So you guys need to sign up for a conference, so check your remind, go to the link, first come, first serve. But basically, it's 5 points to sign up for this for your conference. If you don't, you'll obviously miss those 5 points, and then the actual conference itself is going to be like 15 points or whatever. So it is mandatory that you come. I can make it mandatory even though it's not during class time because it is during tutorial. So just choose a tutorial that works best for you. I'm not saying you have to come to every tutorial, just one. And we're going to have just a 10-minute quick chat about like where you're at in class, what I'd like to see from you going forward. Maybe compliment you, but I doubt it because I'm not that type of teacher. I'm just kidding. But anyways, so sign up for your conference. It goes from now till the end of the semester. We'll be doing another one of these next semester too, just to check in and see where everyone's at. What's up?
3 days or 3 weeks.
So that's just when I posted the thing. Yeah, so I sent it 3 days ago. But you just look at the dates again, just choose one time that works best for you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play Apache Notes while you guys are finishing this up.
Good morning, Senior High School. My name is David, and these are your Apache Notes for October 11th, 2021. Now let's go to Daniel Patterson with your 7-day weather forecast.
Thank you, Jaden and David. While Center High this week is going to be a nice one beginning today with a high of 66. Tuesday will have a high of 66 as well. It will then start to warm up on Wednesday being 71 degrees, Thursday being 76, Friday 82, Saturday 81, and Sunday 76. During the weekend, it will also be partly cloudy. And now back to Jaden and David at the desk.
Many people believe that wearing a mask can help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and other airborne pollutants. But in order for a mask to work and be effective, they must be worn correctly. Here are a few tips on the proper application of your mask to increase its effectiveness.
Wash your hands and sanitize before or after touching your lips. Touch only the bands or ties with fitting on the glove hands. Make sure the mask fits to cover your nose, mouth, and chin. Wash reusable masks after each use.
I mean, I've never watched it in a sink. I throw it in my laundry, but you know.
Boys and girls wrestling will officially begin on October 25th, 2021. Practice will be in the Sanger High School Wrestling Room from 3:45 to 5:45 p.m. Preseason practice is still going on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays in the wrestling room. Please give your blue cards to Coach Suarez at practice or in his classroom in room 1305. For more information, please go to the Wrestling Google Classroom at XMW6625 or stop by Coach Suarez's room. We'll be doing this October drive starting October 4th through 29th. Please donate your unused socks to room 311 or in the library. They'll be donated to Hope Sanger House. Sanger High School students in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. Sanger High School will be offering the ASB AB assessment for those interested in joining the military or for those who would like to take the assessment and the career exploration tool. The assessment will be offered on October 15th, 2021. If you're interested in taking this assessment, please sign up with Mr. Colombo in the guidance office as soon as possible. These are your fashion notes for October 11th, 2021. Have a great day, Senior High.
I mean, I didn't want to say anything. Yeah, the energy was not quite there, but that's okay. I think that was a kind of funny like thumbnail. Looks like he's like cheering. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was when he put on the head or his use of bands or whatever to put on his mask. Anyways, okay. Thank you for signing up for the conferences. This is what I've been up to. So what I've been watching is the morning show to Apple TV show. Just finished the first season. I love this the same because I'm still planning on starting to read that book. I just last week did not have enough time because I completely re-landscaped my front yard, and I'm hoping I'll get to, but I'm also re-landscaping my backyard now too because moving into a new house, literally nothing, so just trying to get that done. But anyways, while I was doing that though, I was listening to one of my favorite albums from NoFX, again, punk band. It's called The Decline. It's literally one song, and it's 19 minutes long. It's like an insanely long punk song. It's really cool actually, but I like it. When I bought it though, I bought it a long time ago. It's called, it's technically an EP, which I don't know what it stands for, but EP is basically like a short album. It's like not a full length album. A lot of times they do it to like test out songs and stuff. But this was an EP and I bought it and I put it in my car to play because, back when we used CDs and stuff, it was like one track. I'm like, wait, what the heck? Why is it only one track? And then I listened to it. It was like 19 minutes. I was like, oh, that makes sense then. But I felt weird paying like $7 for one song. But anyways. Okay, so welcome to podcasting. This is something that I do every year. Have students create podcasts for this class, and I even did it last year while we were in distance learning. Because actually using this Anchor app, you can actually record remotely. So you can actually record, like if you're home and someone else is home, you could technically record together at the same time. So it's actually a pretty cool app. So if I could have you all download the Anchor app, and it says App Portal, but it's in Manager. I guess I need to update that.
I would never have to do this ever again.
Have to do what?
Be a podcast.
thought you would never have to do it again. Is that what?
Yeah.
When did you ever do it?
Like 2 months before COVID, I remember the podcast. That was just
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
One of my classes too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. 'Cause I've been doing it for 7 years. So, anyways.
Kind of like, I gotta.
What?
Get
It's just talking.
I did.
Oh, it'll be better this time.
I was like only 5 points. And I was just.
Well, like I said, it'll be better because, I'll make it better.
That class, it was just like.
Actually, I won. Again, if it sucks, that's on you. That's
Like, they were
basically-
like, you need to make a podcast explaining what happened this year. This happened. And I was like, I'm not.
No, trust me, you guys will be a little more invested in it in this class. For one, it's something that we do, we'll be doing on a fairly, actually, I would have done it earlier, but up until last Friday, it was blocked. So, yeah, so, and also just an FYI too, I forgot to tell my first period, but I'll tell you guys. Starting next week, I usually record a podcast myself actually, and I do 1 episode a week, and it is homework for you guys to listen to. Usually it'll be about, not usually, it'll always be about like what we're like doing in class as far as like what we're reading and stuff. But it's basically so I don't have to spend as much time talking to you up here, and you can listen to it, and then that way you have less like actual work to do. Because again, the way I look at it, would it be better to listen to like a 10-minute podcast, 10 to 15, well, some of them have been a little longer, but like 10 to 20-minute podcast, or do an hour of homework or an hour of like writing, right? I would assume most people would say it's better to listen. Because again, I don't care if you're playing video games, I don't care if you're exercising, doing chores, whatever it is, you guys can listen to the podcast. And it's not going to be something where I'm like, you have to take notes on everything I said, but I just want you guys to listen to it, okay? So the way I'll be able to tell that we've listened to it is basically just looking at how many plays I get. And if I see that I have a bunch of plays, then, and usually I do have sometimes like a check-in kind of thing the next day to make sure that we've listened to it. But there won't be like, again, you don't have to take notes on them or anything, so just heads up on that. Like I said, it'll probably be next week, will probably be the first one. Okay, so we should have downloaded that. We're not gonna need it today. I always just have people download it the day before because, in case the internet's going slow or like anything like that, I just want to make sure that it's in your iPad. So everybody should have that though. Okay, so on Canvas, there's an assignment called Intro to Podcasts. It's going to be just 7 just general questions that I want you to answer. It's a text box assignment, so you just click submit, go to text box. I would probably copy and paste a question just to make it easier on you because last class, AirPlay was kind of laggy a little bit and it actually kicked me off. So in case that happens again, it would just be better that you have it. Okay, so first question. There you go. What is a podcast? Pretty general. Although some people, like based on their answers in my last class, like have an idea but don't know like really how to describe it. But just do your best. What are podcasts about? Where can you listen to them? Do you listen to them? And if so, which ones? If not, what kind of genre like would you listen to? Like comedy, sports, music. There's, like I said, a bazillion different things you can listen to. What is the difference between a YouTuber and a podcaster? Other than probably vanity, but no. How is it different to talk to someone on the phone as opposed to in person? I know that seems like a weird question, but if you really think about it, it'll kind of make you think about podcasting in general. And then finally, what is different about the way you listen to stories as opposed to watching them? So think about like Harrison Bergeron, like the difference between like when we read it and listened to it versus when we watched it. Can you do this please? Okay. What's up?
Like a Google Docs.
No, no, you just, like I said, you click on submit and you just type it on the canvas. Yeah, just copy, the questions are in the assignment. So just copy there. And then you just paste it in the text box. Again, this should only take about 10 minutes. I'm not like asking you to like write a bunch of like just one sentence per question is fine. You need to make them, even though they're technically not, they're similar enough to where you can compare them for. I would say half. I mean, technically they're a little different, but that's fine. 'Cause they basically operate the same way. We're almost done. Do we need a little more time? A little bit more? Okay. Okay, should be wrapping up, and if you're not wrapped up, you could wrap up while we're talking about it. So let's go ahead and see what some of you said. So first off, I always say next is Ebony. Okay, Ebony. For the number one, go ahead.
I said a podcast is is a person talking about a certain thing. It can be just one person or multiple.
Okay. All right. And I feel like there's a little bit more to it, so I just want to see if anybody else had any other details. And again, you're not gonna. Nobody's like getting it like wrong or right or anything. Just again, it was what you know about it so far. Gianna.
I said the same thing as her.
Okay, but what's so talking cool? But what else is it? I mean, is it just like I'm talking right now? Am I doing a podcast?
They just focus on a specific theme or topic.
They do focus on this theme or topic, but what makes it a podcast though?
We record it on a video.
You recorded it, not on a video.
Voice.
Yeah. So basically, the way I would describe a podcast is it's essentially a radio talk show that you can listen to on demand. So you don't have to listen to it at like 2 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. It's like they recorded it. Let's say they recorded it at 2 p.m., but you could listen to it the next day if you're busy. It's essentially that's what a podcast is. That's why someone was asking me about like an audiobook. And yes, audiobooks are essentially the same. Like you listen to them, there's no video. But the difference between a podcast and an audiobook is that podcasts release episodes usually weekly or bi-weekly, which means like every other week. And it's a part of an ongoing series. Once you listen to the audiobook, it's basically done. There's a beginning, middle, and end. With podcasts, there can be, you can have a limited series, like one of the most famous podcasts of all time was called Serial. And it was about this one person who had been like wrongfully convicted. And I don't know if I think he might still be in jail, I forgot, but most of the evidence pointed to somebody else. But again, they've been like working to try to get him out of jail, essentially. Okay, so we kind of already answered number 2, what our podcast's about. So again, they can be about anything. There's obviously many different types of genres. Again, sports, which is what I primarily listen to, comedy, Sometimes there's like recaps on TV shows, or sometimes they're about music, so it can be really about anything. For the do you listen to podcasts, just really quick show of hands, raise your hand if you do. I know some people do, some people don't. Like good 4 or 5 of you. What is the difference between a YouTuber and a podcaster? Oh, sorry, where can you listen to podcasts? I did say that one. Where can you listen to them?
I listen to my podcast by YouTube.
Okay, so that's an interesting point. Somebody brought that up too. If you're listening to it on YouTube, it is no longer a podcast. So it's called it's what's called a simulcast. So like I listen to a couple of shows like that it's recorded and it's on radio, it's on TV, and it's a podcast. So you basically just depends on how you're viewing it. If you're viewing it, it's just a YouTube video. It's not technically a podcast. But if you're listening to it, like I heard over here, Spotify, you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. There's lots of different apps that you can use to listen to it. Trying to think of the other one. Technically, you can listen to podcasts on Audible, which is audiobook company. But anyways, so yeah, you can listen to podcasts anywhere, but it definitely depends on how you're getting it, which makes it a podcast or a video. Okay, so now let's get to this. What's the difference between a YouTuber and a podcaster?
Are you like people?
What's that?
Are you people?
Oh, like answering me?
Yeah.
Sure, if you want an answer, go for it.
Oh, and YouTuber makes videos, and a podcaster makes videos on a conversation like that.
Right, yeah, so it's a video file versus an audio file. But what are some other differences too, in addition to just video and non-video? What's up? Okay, YouTubers, not all of them, but a lot of them do share like their personal lives a little bit more probably than podcasters. Sarah?
A YouTuber also has the freedom to create any sort of content at all, whether it's like main videos, anything at all. While a podcaster mainly focuses on just one topic each week and just talks about that.
Well, I mean, it depends, doesn't it? Because couldn't you say that a YouTuber does the same thing? Don't they usually stick to a specific topic, even if the topic is themselves, right? So I don't know if necessarily sticking to a certain theme. I think that actually goes for both. I was more thinking about like, for like audio, like where is more of the emphasis probably put on? Okay, so like what are you usually hearing then mostly from podcasters?
Usually you're talking, they're explaining about like a certain topic, but whenever it's a YouTuber, depending on what you're watching, it can either be someone playing a game, or it can be a certain situation that's going on, but they're not explaining.
Okay, so the emphasis is more on the words in podcasting, so they have to be probably a little bit more deliberate. They have to be do a little bit more explanation. With YouTubers, like you were saying, sometimes they'll have an additional visual, not just a video of themselves, but sometimes they'll like add other like video, add other like images into it to help aid them as well. So yeah. And then how is it different to talk to someone on the phone as opposed to in person? Like I said, I know that seems kind of like a random question out of left field, but again, there is a reason why I'm asking it. So what do you guys think? I've heard enough from you. No offense. I heard enough from you too.
Or if you get to like whenever you say something, you kind of see the person's facial expression, so you can like see better understanding with like when you talk to something, you get to see more of understanding about the reaction.
Right. So again, in a phone call, all you have to rely on is the words that they said, the tone in which they said it, like how they deliver the words. With like when I'm talking to you guys, I'm using hand gestures. Yes, I have a mask, but you can kind of see my facial expression a little bit. It was just my eyes, but again, facial expressions do make a difference in how you interpret with what somebody's saying. They could sound happy, but if they look like super irritated, then it's like, okay, maybe something's wrong. So again, that's something that, again, relying on your words and also your tone. If you sound bored, you probably are bored. So like you want to try to sound engaging as much as possible. And then finally, what is different about the way you listen to stories as opposed to watching them? So like think about like again, Harrison Bergeron. What was different about reading it versus watching it? Obviously, other than the plot elements, but like what was different in how you got the information?
The information I got better with the visual clip was in the story. It was kind of piecing the story words.
Okay, so I'm not asking about like if you like it better. I'm asking what's different about you, how you get that information. Let's see. Esteban, what did you say for that one?
I'd say like how the information and tone is presented is in a different way, like is visual instead of like the words.
Okay. So for number 7, here's a couple words that you might. Well, I mean, one word for sure. You know what the word active means, but do you know what the word passive means? Is something passive? What do you think it means, Isaiah? Is something passive?
Like aggressive.
Not as aggressive, is that what you said? Okay, so yeah, it's kind of like that. It's basically where it's if you receive information passively, you're like kind of just automatically getting it, right? So when you watch TV, it's a much more passive experience than when you're reading something. Because when you read something, your mind has to do a little more work. You have to like figure out like, okay, they're describing this person's over here, this person's over here. You have to like recreate the scene in your head. You have to like think about like what is it they're doing, how they're doing it, and also the why. When you're watching something, all you have to think about is like what they're doing and why they're doing it. You know, you can think about their motives, but you don't have to visualize the scene because the scene's presented to you. You don't have to visualize what the character looks like because it's on the screen. So that's why it's more of a passive thing. It requires a lot less thinking, obviously, to watch something than it does to read or listen to something because there's less like imagination going on. Okay, now we're not going to be recording anything today. Again, probably not going to record anything tomorrow either. Honestly, it's probably going to be during block day. So making a podcast. So from here on out, you guys are going to have podcast partners. Okay, so you guys get to decide who that is, but it's not groups of 3 or 4. It's just you and another person. So I'm going to have you guys figure out who that person is going to be first. If you're having trouble finding a person, let me know. I will try to make sure I match someone up. But I'm letting you guys pick because when I say podcast partners from now on, these are the people you're going to be working with the entire rest of the school year, just for these types of assignments. So, but you guys, which is why I'm letting you guys choose. So go ahead, get up. You guys are going to sit with them the rest of the period, okay? So go ahead and figure out who your partner is going to be. Yeah, that's Yes, and I know there's a couple people who are missing, so if you want to partner with them, that's fine. Like Madison's not here, Natalie is not here right now. Michaela's not here either. That was it.
Oh, well, Alex too. Oh, dang, you forgot. I'm gonna like that. That's sad. I'm gonna tell him that. I'm gonna tell him that. I'm gonna tell him they forgot about him.
Isn't he at Disneyland? I don't think he cares.
Yeah, you know, I forgot about it.
Yeah. He'll care when he gets back. You can tell him when he gets back.
I bet.
Okay. Who are you gonna have with? Okay. I mean, you can work with Michaela, Natalie. Huh? Okay, all right. David, do you have a partner now? Do you two want to work together since you guys are already sitting next to each other? So make it easier. Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, so now what you're going to do now that you guys have partners, and if your partner's not here, like I said, you get to make decisions without them. So, And this is going to be on Canvas as well. It's going to be called Create a Series. Sorry, I couldn't remember it. But you're going to create a title for your podcast series. It can be whatever title you want it to be, school appropriate. I always feel like I have to put that disclaimer out there. There's always one person. After you create the title for your series, you need to decide who your host is going to be. Now, let me be clear. You're both going to be talking, but the host should be the first voice I hear on your podcast. They should be the ones that started off. They're also going to be the ones probably driving the conversation forward. Okay, so the other person who is also going to talk, so I would say probably the host will talk like 55% of the time, where the producer will talk about 45% of the time. So the producer is going to be the one, they're going to record the podcast, they're going to add music to it, they're going to add sound effects if you want sound effects. Don't make it sound like a circus, but here and there, it's fine. But they're also going to be like, if you've ever listened to a podcast, most podcasts, the producer is the other person who's having the conversation. After you guys put in all this information into Canvas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating groups where you're basically you and your partner. So that way, like, let's say Nathan is the producer of the podcast, and he records it, he submits it. Him and his partner it'll be submitted for both for this. So you won't both have to submit it. So especially since you guys are going to be partners pretty much for the entire year, I definitely wanted to make it so it's like that way. So in that assignment, the create a series, you need to create the title, tell me who your partner is, who's going to be the host, who's going to be the producer. So go ahead and fill that information out so that way I know who to put into groups.
So what is this podcast about?
Whatever.
Well, no, it's going to be there are going to be specific podcasts about it, but your name can be about it. And then there's also there's another person. Do you have a partner yet? If he doesn't have a partner, so he can partner. You do want to be partners, he can partner. That was fine.
And then add it into the ID, like with no images, just like
So are you two gonna be partners then?
I mean, we haven't decided on the I'm talking about it.
We don't know what that's going to be about. All I thought he was going to go to Disneyland, and that's about it.
Dude, as soon as
Just the title can be, again, we are gonna have, like, the podcast is gonna be about mythology this week. I might let you guys do like random episodes also here and there, we'll see. It just depends on how much time we have, but I would like to give you guys the opportunity to make your own episodes as well, so.
Are you going to be like that?
No,
Oh, this is racial.
but again, it's not visual, so it's just audio, so we'll just hear, but I'm also not gonna be like up here playing them in front of class, it'll be just like listening to people on your headphones.
wearing glasses.
It'll be fun. Again, you'll get to hear them sound super cute. I mean, they just sit too. Excellent. Well, we're not quite there in the producing part of it. Let's just focus on. Did you guys answer that Canvas already? It's called Create a Series. It's just a short little assignment.
What if we make like
I don't know, I think that's a song. I'm just going to take that.
You guys can change it if you need to. Just for right now, just make a decision. Again, if they're not here, that's not.
I mean, that's pretty simple.
I don't think no one's.
I mean,
Is it okay if we choose the name later on when we think of something else? Like,
Try to come up with something now. If you need to change it later, you can change it later. I'm not gonna make you guys state it, I just want you to have an initial idea.
Yeah.
Okay, for this assignment, since I haven't made the groups yet, if you can both please submit those, because I haven't obviously had a chance to make it in the last like 5 minutes. So,
would we just submit like
just the questions, basically, yeah. It's called Create a Series. That's what Canvas.
you know any part? Alright, good. There you go.
Hey, you want to be part?
No.
I remember. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, so you're just gonna present it. Just making sure. Yeah, I would like you guys to come up with a title, like I said, Sarah, if you guys come up with something later too, like that you wanna change it, you can. So just try to come up with something now, and if you decide to change it later, that's fine.
What is the title of the podcast?
No, it's simple, but everyone's gonna be thinking about something big,
What?
something big. This is
What?
Um,
You didn't like it yet?
it has to be.
The travel, right?
the producer is the one that.
Traveler, okay.
The one
They
that.
said travel nerd.
Starts.
I don't know. I'm a travel nerd. I'm all sorts of kind of nerds. I'm all the nerds.
Adding music or adding music and sound.
Except Star Wars, I'm not a big Star Wars.
You're talking to yourself.
Okay, yeah, I definitely like more of my superhero Marvel.
I think you're gonna.
Some DC stuff, but we all have our own. We all feel this like, I'm a sports nerd too, though. Watching my Eagles, well, I would say lose, they actually won. This week, again, our first one is going to be about this holiday. But like I said, I am probably going to give the opportunity to also. So I was thinking, I would like to do a podcast. Maybe. So we feel good about what we're doing. Other weeks, I'm like, you guys have a free time where you guys can like come up with your own like topics, all that stuff.
I'm gonna see if it gets up.
You're calling him or texting him?
I was gonna call him, and I'll get back to him. I don't even think you're gonna pick up.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to read it.
He was like, oh, yeah.
How many cans we just like this one?
I was just like, hey, you want to be a part of this?
I don't think it really matters.
I mean, you should always.
I've been here, like, joking around. Like, hey, I was him. Wait, think about it.
Okay, so last thing we are gonna do today is I am gonna play a podcast for you to listen to. It's really short, it's only like 7 minutes long. Hopefully I can get enough reception from my phone to play it. We'll see. I can't play it from my computer, unfortunately, so, yeah. So as you guys listen to it, again, yeah, you listen to the story and all that, but I want you more to pay attention to the production value. And like what they're doing in the podcast, like how they made it. Okay. Let's see if I can. Probably have to step outside.
I probably have this stuff outside too.
Sounds like you're like trying to fight me or something.
No, like, oh, no. Like, she'll text me.
Like, I need to step outside. No, I need to step outside.
No, I
Yeah,
know.
No, yeah, no.
Come on.
0347. Dang, it's windy out there.
Is it
My hair
cold?
gonna get messed up.
More so.
On that one. My hair's gonna get all sweetie, but it's like, who's the host? You. I gotta talk to you. So you're gonna
What was the name?
you're gonna be recording about yeah.
Close. Well, yeah, I'm gonna for the rest of the.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he doesn't even find it. He was like,
You guys don't have a teacher's Wi-Fi?
they do.
They do, but we keep getting kicked off.
No, I like still sucks anyway. It's like I tried to.
927.
It's the same as your guys' Wi-Fi. We're on SUSD net also.
My teacher said, all right, fair one, so all right, right now. Yeah, that was private internet.
Okay, let's see if it plays.
Spending
On
on
October 14th,
that.
at Burgess and State Market is welcome to kind fully
Myself,
Okay, there we go. I was just skipping past
his
the ads.
classmates don't fully understand the liver disease he has that could be fatal.
Don't worry about it. Again, we're mostly listening for the
Responds
production.
differently.
Dylan like doesn't get scared, he talks to me, and we just laugh together.
Dylan is 9 years old now, but his story starts 3 years ago when the boys were in first grade. Dylan's mom, Deborah Siegel, was driving her son home from Jonah's house. When she told him that Jonah had a rare condition he could die
It's
from,
called Kind
she
World.
explained there was
Is the
no
name of the
cure,
podcast.
and doctors needed money to find one.
I'm like, oh my god, I want to help.
And I said, great, I love that. Do you want to do a bake sale? Do you want to do a lemonade stand? He's like, no. He looked at me like I was insane. What a horrible idea. Later that night, I was putting him to bed, and he said, I thought about what I want to do for Jonah.
I'm like, how about I could write a book?
The next day, Dylan took out his markers and wrote a storybook he dedicated to Jonah. He called it Chocolate Bar.
Chocolate bar means awesome.
Each page listed something chocolate bar, like Disneyland or going swimming. Dylan's plan? Sell his book to raise money for research. But first, he needed some parental help.
He marched to my office and said, here's my book. Will you go make copies?
Please, 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 print it. Yeah, like, okay, we'll do it later, blah, blah, blah. A week before our special school event, I was like, can I please sell it at our school event? And everyone was like, oh my god, I haven't printed it yet. So I went to Dad, I'm like, Dad, print it, fast. And I'm like, I want chocolate bars too. And he's like, oh my god. So he called Whole Foods, and they said they'd give us 100 chocolate bars for free. I sat behind a table. We sold our books and our chocolate bars, and we sold out.
The next week, Dylan spoke at a PTA meeting.
Somebody asked him, how much money you want to raise? And I was like, what? What did he just say? Does he even know what $1 million is? I mean, he's 6 years old.
I even thought I was a little crazy. But then I'm like, wait, I could do anything I want. I could cure this disease.
Curing a disease is a daunting proposition for anyone, but a 6-year-old? And unfortunately, this particular disease posed a major challenge. Dr. David Weinstein of the University of Florida says Jonah's type of GSD, or glycogen storage disease, is 1 in a million, so rare that it's often not taught in medical school. Weinstein is one of the few doctors who treat and research GSD.
There's no funding. Honestly, I've come close to giving up numerous times.
But Dylan had made up his mind. Many doctors may not be familiar with GSD, but Dylan learned as much as he could.
He has no white blood cells at all, or very, very low. So whenever he catches something like a cold, he could end up in the hospital. He has to drink cornstarch every couple of hours to keep his blood sugar high.
Yep, cornstarch every 3 hours, even at night.
We set 3 alarms.
That's Jonah's mom, Laura.
If we miss a feeding, he can have seizures, go into a coma and die.
They've had close calls, watching Jonah be rushed to the emergency room by paramedics who weren't sure they could save him. That fragility motivated Jonah's friend Dylan. He took every opportunity to approach people with his book. One of them happened to work in the news media and picked up the story.
A 6-year-old who decided he could make a change in the world.
People told their friends told their friends told more friends.
And dollars started flowing into the fund for Dr. Weinstein's research.
The next milestone I remember was hitting 25,000. I thought that was incredible.
Can make a difference.
I love Jonah so
And then went to 50,000.
so much. I got interviewed by Chelsea Clinton,
Good Morning America and
Diane Sawyer.
being on nightly news.
The book so many of you bought for a good cause.
Copies shipped to all 50 states and 56 countries from Australia to Denmark.
I don't think any of us could have imagined
Except for
something
Dylan.
like this.
Dylan's the only one that had this in his imagination.
In the middle of all of this, Dylan's family heard from the mother of a boy in the hospital with the same disease as Jonah.
When we went into the boys' room in the ICU, there was a copy of Dylan's book on his bed. And the mom told us how much Dylan's book had meant to him, and that he had 3 copies of Dylan's book, and that he was so inspired by Dylan. Here was a kid who was fighting for his life, and a mom who had spent her last 13 years trying to keep him alive. About a week later, he passed away. And it was really hard.
After that death, both families threw themselves into reaching Dylan's $1 million goal.
My parents and Jonah's parents worked their butt off. I knew that it was gonna happen. My instincts told me.
And he was right.
Now we have like over $1 million.
Dr. Weinstein is now planning human trials for GSD gene therapy for next year. And he says his team has found treatments for mice with Jonah's rare subtype.
I'm still in shock. We are on the verge of curing or treating this disease, and that would not have been possible if the 6-year-old boy hadn't created this book.
Dylan may make a difference in the lives of some very sick children, but there's something else he and Jonah are looking forward to.
Well, I never have a sleepover at like someone else's house. Once I get cured, Dylan and I made plans to have a huge slumber party and just have fun. Play games, watch TV. Just us two.
Alright. So the reason why I played that wasn't to bum you out. I mean a little bit, but no, but yeah, what did you guys notice? Like what was in the background period? Yeah, there's music, but it wasn't throughout the entire thing, just a certain part. Interviews, which for this first podcast assignment, we will be doing interviews, so you'll be interviewing other people in class. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow, but anyways, it should be fun, so look forward to doing it, look forward to listening to them, so thank you guys. And just go ahead and we have about a minute left till the bell rings.